How you doing, everybody? Thank you very much. I'm Orlando Ruiz Jr. Welcome to another classic movie review. This is a comedy from 1994. It was directed by Tim Burton. It is a black and white film, and the name of the film is Ed Wood. This movie stars Johnny Depp. You got Martin Landau, Bill Murray, Jeffrey Jones, Patricia Arquette, Sarah Jessica Parker, George the Animal Steel, Lisa Marie, and this movie is kind of a loving tribute to an old era of Hollywood filmmaking. It is a movie that takes place in the 50s, and it's mainly about a real life movie director who many people consider one of the worst directors, if not the worst director of all time. Ed Wood was in the U.S. military. He fought in World War II. Prior to directing movies, he had a background in making commercials. He had made hundreds of commercials before getting into low budget filmmaking, independent filmmaking. And his movies did have kind of a cheap quality about them. A lot of the sets looked very cheap and couldn't get the best actors. But when you watch the film and you see Johnny Depp's portrayal of Ed Wood, you feel like this guy really had kind of a passion for filmmaking that is kind of contagious when you watch the film. If you're into films and filmmaking, that passion really does come off the screen. At the very beginning of the film, when we meet Ed Wood for the first time, we see him as this guy who's struggling, trying to break through as a writer director in Hollywood. He kind of considers himself an auteur, wanting to write, direct, and act very much in the same vein as his hero Orson Welles, like he did with Citizen Kane. And so you can tell that Welles is very much an inspiration for Ed Wood throughout this movie as he references Welles here and there. And we see he lives in this really small apartment with his girlfriend Dolores, played by Sarah Jessica Parker, who is very supportive of Ed Wood in helping him to write his scripts and helping out with small aspects of production. And she acts in his movies, so he gets help from everybody. He gets help from his friends, some of them being Bill Murray's character John Bridgerton. Also, I got to mention Jeffrey Jones's character in the role of Criswell, who was kind of a local TV psychic personality who was very much also into helping out Ed Wood when it came to acting in his films and helping out behind the scenes and also helping him to find investors for his first movies. And we also have Bela Lugosi in this film, played by Martin Landau. Martin Landau was in the old Mission Impossible TV show back in the day. In the 1950s, he had a small role as a goon, appearing in Alfred Hitchcock's classic film North by Northwest. He was also in the classic 60s Cleopatra film that starred Elizabeth Taylor, and was in movies well into the 70s, 80s, and 90s, also appearing in movies like Crimes and Misdemeanors with Woody Allen. And I think a lot of people will remember his performance in Ed Wood for Bela Lugosi because it is one of his great parts, and he was nominated for an Oscar because he was so great in this film. Bela Lugosi was catapulted into movie stardom in the 1930s for his portrayal of Dracula, that classic 1931 film from Universal Pictures, and his performance was so memorable and iconic that he would be typecast for years and years to come. And Lugosi was very much a personality that had a lot of charisma and was very suave. And I think that Martin Landau really captures that aspect of Lugosi perfectly all throughout this film with the accent and the mannerisms. Martin Landau also does an incredible job in depicting the more tragic aspects of Bela Lugosi's life with his personal life and his drug addiction, his addiction to painkillers and methadone. And there's a sequence in the film where he goes into rehab, and it's a kind of frightening image when you see his character laying in a bed strapped down in this very dark room as he's kind of screaming and screaming for help as he is going through a detoxing stage. I love the scene where Ed Wood and Bela Lugosi meet for the first time because from the very beginning, Bela Lugosi is very kind of grumpy and has this kind of attitude, but because Ed kind of softens him up by kind of gushing over him and just fanboying out and still remaining kind of casual and just friendly and everything, the two of them really kind of become friends instantly. And even though it's the 50s and Bella's way past his prime, because he's such a fan, Ed gives him his proper respect, and it's very cool to see. Very quickly, Ed Wood and Bela Lugosi become friends as they bond over movies and become regular collaborators on a few projects. As Bela Lugosi joins the band of misfits and dope addicts, as they're referred to by Sarah Jessica Parker's character Dolores, And there's also the addition of Tor Johnson, played by George the Animal Steel. And George the Animal Steel was a real wrestler who is depicting a real wrestler, Tor Johnson, who was a wrestler back in the day. And you also have Lisa Marie in the film as Vampira, who was an actress who was kind of a personality that would showcase horror movies on a TV program. She was like a horror movie host back in the 50s, very much in the same kind of style of Elvira. In this film, we get to see Ed Wood and his crew as we see them making some of the films from Ed Wood's filmography. Movies like Bride of the Monster and Night of the Ghouls and Plan 9 from Outer Space. And there's a moment where they're shooting in broad daylight when they're making Glenn or Glenda, and there's a cop out on the street and they have to run because they don't have a permit. And then later on, when they're making another movie, they need an octopus that is in like the studio they have to break into, and they have to steal it and then bring it back before anybody knows it's missing, and things like that. You can tell this was very much a kind of guerrilla style of filmmaking, very much definitely low budget independent filmmaking. And so it's very inspiring to see, even though they're kind of, funny antics and, kind of off the wall ways of going about trying to get things done, they still manage to get things done. And even though it's very much on the cheap, it has a lot of passion behind it. And so it's kind of hard not to root for Ed Wood. We all know Johnny Depp can be a great actor when it comes to being serious in films, but he can also be very funny, and Ed Wood is definitely a great display of his comedic talent. He is hilarious in this film. And I did a bit of reading that talked about how he drew a lot of inspiration from Ronald Reagan in terms of the optimism from 1980s Reagan as a president, and also when it comes to his mannerisms and facial expressions, there was definitely quite a bit of the Tin Man from The Wizard of Oz in there. And it's just an inspired performance that I relish every time I watch this film. 1994's Ed Wood is a comedy that I highly recommend. It is a great comedy and satire on Hollywood and filmmaking of this time period. And it is a comedy classic from the 90s as far as I'm concerned. It is a great Tim Burton film. If you're a fan of Tim Burton or Johnny Depp or a fan of movies about filmmaking, I highly recommend you check this out. I give Ed Wood 4 stars. It is a classic, and the black and white has really helped to make the film have this timeless feel to this day. It has aged very beautifully and continues to age very well. This is a movie that you should find on streaming, but hard copies are out there. I think I've seen it on Max, but yeah, this is my copy of the Blu-ray, and you can see there Ed Wood here, and there is Dolores, played by Sarah Jessica Parker, and you can see Bill Murray here in that little box, and Martin Landau as Bella right there. But yeah, this was one of the best films of 1994. Ed Wood, check it out. Great comedy. Thank you all very much for watching this classic movie review. I very much appreciate you. If you're into classic films, if you're into this kind of thing, hit the bell, subscribe. If you're a returning viewer, thank you very much for watching. I very much appreciate it. Please don't forget to look out for more classic movie reviews. Please don't forget to share, comment, and like. It really helps out the channel. And look out for the next classic movie review. Till next time, take care and peace out.